Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. No, there's no need to go running off, traveler. Most of the coven is asleep, and I'd like to consider myself a bit less territorial. I don't advise going back into the woods at this time of morning. The storm is only going to get worse. In my opinion, it's best for you to lay low. Here, come sit and join me by the fire. You like this cabin? Yeah. It's made of ash wood. I find it quite pretty. It's a bit darker than oak. At least after it's been stained by harsh winters. Here, let me get you some tea. I'll prepare some for the both of us. Where are you coming from? Oh, I see. Well, I'm glad it wasn't too far of a venture for you then. And where are you heading? I see. It's a long journey. I wish you luck once you leave. Or perhaps you might find this place to be quite peaceful. You see, we witches and various pagan sorts enjoy nature. A lot of our beliefs are centered around going against human rule and working towards a natural, happy life. That we can all enjoy. I'm almost finished if you want to put your stuff down now. You look weary. Have you been traveling most of the previous night? I see. your cup, and here is mine. Tasty, don't you think? It's a good pick-me-up in the morning. Citrus, pomegranate, cranberry. I've been thinking about adding thyme or pepper, but I'm not too sure yet. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. Do you, happen to know what today is, traveler? Indeed, it is October 31st. Do you know what holiday is October 31st? For Wicca and pagan religions alike? Well, yes. Most people, especially those here in Northern Europe, to many people it's known as Halloween, which it is, but there are many things that are different about Halloween and a religion I practice, where the holiday of today is known as Samhain, spelled S-A-M-H-A-I-N, Samhain. A few other pronunciations are Samhain, Savin, or Sohrin. Of course, it's a very, very old holiday, at least in the case of humans being old. The holiday centers around various themes. Some of them are dark, and some of them are rather bright. A few of the bright ones are introspection, honoring our ancestors, divination, rebirth, and a few negative ones. Of course, I don't view them as negative. They're all natural behaviors, and that is why they are themes of the holiday. There's nothing necessarily bad. It's more of an appreciation. For instance, death, revelry, or benign mischief. It is the third and final festival of the Wheel of the Year. The Sabbat in particular marks the end of the growing season and the coming of winter, which must be prepared for now in earnest. Herbs are dried, fruits and vegetables are canned and preserved, and root vegetables are dug up and stored so that they may nourish us through the cold months. The word Samhain comes from the Old Irish and is thought by many to translate as the summer's end. While the cycles of life and death are implicitly recognized at every Sabbat, Samhain is when the necessary role of death is formally honored. The nights grow noticeably longer. The god retreats now into the shadows of the dark season, symbolically dying back to the earth before being reborn again at Yule. Many Wiccans and other pagans consider this to be the most important day on the wheel, the time when the veil between the spirit world and the mundane world is at its thinnest. Our ancestors and loved ones on the other side are said to be more easily able to visit with us and make their presence known at this time. Yeah, it's quite a sacred holiday, but it does not need to be taken in any extreme manner. A few common ways I celebrate this are perhaps making a big feast for the family, typically something out of the family cookbook. Some common recipes might be smoked lamb or steamed veggies or seasoned potatoes, honeyed bread. Occasionally, there are festivals centered around the holiday, especially around here, for people of all ages, but it's mostly focused around children. Many of Halloween traditions celebrated in contemporary cultures today have grown out of customs dating back to pagan times. As far back as ancient Greece, people were leaving offerings of food to their ancestors, which is echoed in the modern tradition of trick-or-treating. Witches, of course, have always been part of mainstream Halloween lore, and although they have almost always been present as evil caricatures with no resemblance to the real thing, there's still a lingering association with the spirit of a Halloween and the power of a real witch. Anyway, I don't mean to talk your ear off, but I would like to allow you to get some rest. Unfortunately, the tea I gave you might not help too much with that, but if you'd like to come sit on the log on this side of the fire with me, you can lean against me and I can read you a story. Perhaps this story will help relax your brain to rest and continue on your journey, out of which I wish you luck to. Very well. Come here. Okay. Oh, alright. Yeah, I guess you can lay there. Yes, my skirt does have satin lining. Anyway. The story I would like to read you is about Circe. Now, this name might ring a bell to you, traveler. Circe, in Greek legend, is a sorceress. She is the daughter of Helios and the daughter of the ocean nymph Perse. She was able, by means of drugs and incantations, to change humans into wolves, lions, and swine. The Greek hero Odysseus visited her land, Aea, with his companions, whom she changed into swine. But Odysseus, protected by the herb moly, a gift from Hermes, compelled her to restore them to their original shape. He stayed with her for 1 year before resuming his journey. The story is told by Homer in the Odyssey, books 10 through 12. I thought it would be a good idea to read a short story about her. Circe, the beautiful witch. Now he and his men sailed on across the wine dark sea, until once again they caught sight of an island. They slipped their boat into a snug little harbor, and there they slept for 2 whole days. The following morning, Odysseus said they should explore the island and discover who lived there. At these words his men grew afraid. They remembered the terrible Cyclops who had kept them prisoner in his cave and had devoured some of their companions. Odysseus divided his men into 2 groups, so that if one should get into trouble, the other could come and help. He was leader of one group, and Lord Eurylochus was the leader of the other. They drew straws to see which group should go and explore first, and as Eurylochus drew the short straw, he and his men had set out and explored the woods. After walking 2 or 3 hours, the men came to a clearing. They saw a little house surrounded by wild beasts, wolves, leopards, and lions. One of the leopards sprang towards Eurylochus. He thought he was about to die, but instead of eating him, the leopard rubbed up against him like a cat and purred. The window of the house was open. One of the leopards sprang towards Eurylochus. He thought that he was about to die, but instead of eating him, the leopard rubbed up against him like a cat and purred. The window of the house was open, and inside was a woman singing. Her voice was mysterious but very beautiful, and the men felt themselves being drawn towards the house, for they all longed to see if the woman was as wonderful as her voice. They all walked past the fierce-looking beasts, who in fact were really quite tame. Inside, they were greeted by a tall and elegant woman. Her black hair done up in braids, she did indeed look very lonely. Her name was Circe, and she invited the men to sit down at her table and drink some of her soup. They readily agreed. As they drank the soup, Eurylochus said, "When I drew the short straw, I cursed my bad luck, but how wrong I was. Our hostess is not so terrible after all. Amen." They did not realize that, though she was beautiful, Circe was in fact a witch. She had slipped a magic potion into their soup, and when they had finished drinking it, she rapped the table with a magic wand and said, "Now you swine, be off to the big pigsty where you belong." The men looked up astonished. "Madam, did you just call us pigs?" asked Eurylochus. But Circe just laughed in reply, for the nose of Eurylochus was already growing into a pig's pink snout, and his hands were becoming hairy trotters. In fact, all his men were swiftly turning into pigs. They tried to weep and cry out, but all they could do was to snort and squeal. "Now, do as I say," cried Circe. "Pigs belong in the sty, not in my kitchen. Be off with you." And they trotted to their new home. When the men did not return to the ship, Odysseus grew worried, and he decided to go and search for them. He set out across the island in the direction of the smoke he had seen from the cottage. While he was walking through the woods, he met a young man, more of a boy, whose beard was still soft and downy on his face. "Stranger, what are you doing here?" asked the young man. "I'm going in search of my men who are lost," said Odysseus. "No doubt they are guests of the lovely Circe. You won't find them in her house, but outside in the pigsty. Beautiful though she is really a witch, and she turns men into beasts. If you step inside her house, she will turn you into a pig too." "My men turned into pigs," exclaimed Odysseus. Is this how you treat guests on this island? The young man did not reply, but took a small plant out of his knapsack and handed it to Odysseus. Its stem was black, and its flower was as white as milk. "Eat this," he said. "It will make you safe against all magic tricks and potions. The name of this plant is Molly. It is dangerous for mere mortals to pluck, for only gods can take it out of the ground safely." When he spoke these words, Odysseus realized that this was no ordinary young man, but Hermes, the messenger of the gods. He ate the molly plant and went on his way. Soon he came to the house in the woods that was guarded by wild beasts. Circe's lovely singing voice drifted out through the window, and Odysseus walked boldly past the beasts and into the house. Inside he was greeted by the beautiful witch, who told him to sit down and try some of her soup. While she was heating it, she slipped some magic potion into the broth, for she intended to turn Odysseus into a pig like the others. She gave the soup to him. He drank it all down, and then she took out her wand and rapped the table with it. "Now, be off with you to the sty, pig-face," she cried. Odysseus did not turn into a pig, but instead leapt to his feet, drew his sword, and arrested Circe. She, terrified, let out a shriek and fell to his feet, begging for mercy. "Please, great lord, do not take such offense. It was just my strange sense of humor. It comes from living alone for so long, here in the woods with nothing but wild beasts for company. It is many years since I have seen a strong, brave man like you. Come, let me kiss you." Odysseus let the beautiful witch kiss him, but all the time he was watching to see that she did not try any more of her tricks. She called her servant girls and commanded them to prepare a bath for the visitor. They brought hot and cold water and mixed the bath until it was just right. When Odysseus had bathed and rested, he found that they had prepared a delicious meal for him. "Come, why do you look so sad?" asked Circe. "Let us eat together and wash the food down with honeyed wine." "How can a leader eat," asked Odysseus, "when he knows his companions are living outside in the mighty pigsty?" When he spoke these words, Circe knew that there was no pretending any longer, that she was anything other than a witch. She went out to the pigsty and rubbed magic ointment on the animals. Then she waved her wand, and they began to change back into men, only younger and better looking than they were before. They began to weep, for what they had been through was truly terrible. When they had recovered, Odysseus went back to the ship to fetch the rest of his men. They were all united at Circe's house and sat down to a wonderful feast of celebration. The Greeks stayed with the witch Circe for an entire month, and she didn't try any more of her magic tricks on them. One morning, Odysseus spoke to her. "O beautiful enchantress, too long have we enjoyed your hospitality. We must continue our journey to our home on the rocky island of Ithaca, but unfortunately, we are completely lost. We do not know these seas. Can you direct us by the safest route?" Circe replied, "Lord Odysseus, if it were up to me, I would keep you here always, but I understand that you must be on your way to your home and your lovely wife, Queen Penelope. There is no safe route for you and your men to return home, for when you leave here, you must pass through a narrow passage between the rocks of Scylla and the whirlpool of Charybdis. Both are perilous, for Scylla is a many-armed monster who yelps like a dog. If you sail close to her cliffs, she will reach down and grab some of your men and shove them into her mouth. But if you sail too close to the whirlpool of Charybdis, your entire boat will be sunk down to the bottom of the sea, and all of you will drown. It is a terrible choice to make, but you are a leader, so plot your course as you see best. Next, if the gods permit you to pass through the dire strait, you will come to the island of the sun, where the great sun god, Lord Apollo, keeps his herd of sacred cows. Do as I say. Steer clear of the island and do not land there. Nothing and nobody escapes the eyes of Apollo as he looks down from the sky. If you value your lives, avoid his island. So Odysseus and his men said farewell to the lovely Circe and sailed on their way. After 3 days, just as she had foretold, they reached the narrow passage that she had described. Up on the cliffs they could hear the monster Scylla yelping like a dog that has been left tied up for too long. As they drew closer, they could hear the terrible gurgling sound of the whirlpool, Charybdis. There is indeed a terrible choice, thought Odysseus. But is it a lesser evil to lose some of my men than for all of us to drown? I must therefore chart my course closer to the cliffs than the whirlpool. He did not tell his men about Scylla, in case they were lost heart and put down their oars. All his men's eyes were on the dreadful whirlpool gurgling like a cauldron. The men rowed as hard as they could, but as they passed beneath Scylla, she reached down to the ship. Odysseus fought her with his spear, desperately trying to stab at her arms, but he could not prevent her from snatching up 6 of his men. The others rowed on, crying for their companions. Once they passed through the strait, they saw the island of the sun, just as Circe had predicted. Thank heavens for land, cried the men. Odysseus tried to tell them it was no good. They must not land but sail on, for Circe had warned him of the terrible danger should they set foot on the island belonging to the great sun god, Lord Apollo. Are you a slave dryer? Cried out Lord Eurylochus. In your rush to reach home you deny us all rest. We are still grieving for our 6 lost companions. You cannot order us to sail on. We will surely die of sadness and exhaustion. Saying that the men meant rebellion, Odysseus allowed the ship to land with great misgiving in his heart. They found that the island was covered in green fields, and the fat cattle were grazing. The men waited for Odysseus to fall asleep and then killed 2 of the cows and ate roast meat on the beach. When the sun rose in the morning, bright Apollo saw that what they had done and said to Zeus, who is Lord of all the gods, Great Lord, I am wronged for these rascals and ruffians to crew the ship of that tricky Greek Odysseus, have killed the sacred cattle that bring joy to my heart. If you will not punish them, I shall go down to the land of the dead and light up the gloomy underworld. No more shall I shine in the skies above the world. When Zeus heard these words, he replied, It is indeed a crime to take what rightly belongs to the gods. When these men set sail tomorrow, I shall hit their boat with a burning thunderbolt. The next day, Odysseus and his men set to sail. When they were out at sea, the sun disappeared behind a black cloud. The dark skies filled with lightning, and an electric flash shot down from the hand of Lord Zeus and hit their boat, ripping it in two. All the men fell into the raging sea. Odysseus clung for his life to the broken mast of the ship, and somehow survived the storm. The sun shone once again on the now calm waters, and Odysseus saw land. Using his last strength, he swam into the shore and staggered onto the beach, where he fell down, exhausted.